Section 6. Upon adoption of this resolution, it shall be in order to consider in the House the bill, H.R. 9494, making continuing appropriations for fiscal year 2025 and for other purposes. All points of order against consideration of the bill are waived. The amendment printed in Part D of the report of the Committee on Rules accompanying this resolution shall be considered as adopted. The bill as amended shall be considered as read. All points of order against provisions of the bill as amended are waived. The previous question shall be considered as ordered on the bill as amended and on any further amendment thereto to final passage without intervening motion except one. 1 hour of debate, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Appropriations or their respective designees, and 2, 1 motion to recommit.
The gentleman from New York is recognized for 1 hour.
For the purpose of debate only, I yield the customary 30 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from Massachusetts, Representative McGovern, pending which I yield myself as much time as I may consume. During consideration of this resolution, all time yielded is for the purpose of debate only. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks.
Without objection.
House Resolution 1430 provides for consideration of 6 measures: H.R. 1398, H.R. 1425, H.R. 1516, H.R. 7980, H.R. 9546, and H.R. 9494. The rule provides for H.R. 1398 to be considered under a structured rule, with 1 hour of debate equally divided and controlled by the chair and the ranking minority member of the Judiciary Committee or their designees, and provides for 1 motion to recommit. The rule also provides for H.R. 1425 to be considered under a structured rule, with 1 hour of debate equally divided and controlled by the chair and the ranking minority member of the Foreign Affairs Committee or their designees, and provides for 1 motion to recommit. The rule also provides for H.R. 1516 to be considered under a structured rule, with 1 hour of debate equally divided and controlled by the chair and the ranking minority member of the Homeland Security Committee, and provides for 1 motion to recommit. The rule further provides for consideration of H.R. 7980 under a closed rule, with 1 hour of debate equally divided between the chair and the ranking minority member of the Committee on Ways and Means, and provides for 1 motion to recommit. The rule further provides for consideration of H.R. 9456 under a closed rule, with 1 hour of debate equally divided between the chair and the ranking minority member of the Agriculture Committee, and provides for 1 motion to recommit. And finally, the rule provides for consideration of H.R. 9494 under a closed rule, with 1 hour of debate equally divided between the chair and the ranking minority member of the Committee on Appropriations, and provides for 1 motion to recommit. Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of this rule and in support of the underlying legislation. The rule before us provides for consideration of 5 measures aimed at protecting the American people from the greatest threat to our sovereignty, our national security, and our prosperity, the Chinese Communist Party. Let's start with H.R. 1398, Protect America's Innovation and Economic Security from CCP Act of 2024. This bill will reestablish the CCP initiative at the Department of Justice, an effort that was originally established by President Trump, which successfully combated espionage, hacking, and theft of American trade secrets. And you know what? It worked. Under Trump's leadership, we saw 45 individuals convicted or plead guilty to espionage. But in yet another surrender to the woke mob, the Biden-Harris administration, with 0 justification, they shut it down. They shut it down cold. They claimed it stoked anti-Asian bias. That argument is just not wrong. It's an insult to every American. Shutting down the China initiative proves that this administration cares more about appeasing the extreme left than it does our national security. H.R. 1398 will get us back on track, despite President Biden and Vice President Harris's refusal to do so. Now, while the Biden-Harris administration is shutting down efforts to prosecute spies, they're bending over backwards to negotiate a new pandemic accord with the WHO, an organization that sold out the United States and the world to the Chinese Communist Party during the COVID-19 pandemic. As of now, the pandemic accord the Biden-Harris administration is negotiating with the World Health Assembly is intended to tie our country to responsibilities and obligations overseen by an organization that lied for and covered for the Chinese Communist Party as it deceived the world about the origins and the spread of COVID-19. Now, let's not forget how, at the onset of COVID-19's pandemic in 2020, the WHO Director General visited Beijing and praised China for, quote, setting a new standard for outbreak control. Simultaneously, the CCP was busy arresting citizens for, quote, spreading rumors of a COVID-19 outbreak in Wuhan. That was in the first months of 2020. The WHO went along with the CCP's propaganda, and millions died from a pandemic whose spread could have been contained far earlier. H.R. 1425, the WHO Pandemic Preparedness Treaty without Senate Approval Act, would require that any pandemic-related convention of the WHO that purports to bind the United States must be considered and ratified by the Senate as a treaty subject to the requirements of Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution. Mr. Speaker, hardworking American taxpayers should not be subjected to sweeping new international agreements that could tie them to organizations like the WHO and policies that run contrary to their own interests without any real say in the matter. Additionally, under the rule, House Republicans have brought forward H.R. 1516, the DHS Restrictions on Confucius Institutes and Chinese Entities of Concern Act. Since 2005, the Chinese government has sponsored Confucius Institutes at American universities, ostensibly to teach Chinese language and facilitate cultural exchanges. However, these institutes are a cover for the CCP's global influence and propaganda campaign. I've seen it in my own district. This bill will cut off Homeland Security funding for any university that maintains relationships with these entities. Now, let's be clear. The Chinese Communist Party's ultimate goal is to build the most advanced military in the world by 2049. And they're stealing our intellectual property to do so. House Republicans simply will not stand by idly and let that happen at our higher learning institutions. Next under the rule, we're considering H.R. 7980, the End Chinese Dominance of Electric Vehicles in America Act of 2024, which would put an end to the Biden-Harris sellout to China in the name of a Green New Deal. The Inflation Reduction Act opened the door for Chinese companies to profit from electric vehicle tax subsidies, leaving American families to foot the bill for these policies while China laughs all the way to the bank. We've seen the Biden administration's game. They claim to be tough on China, but behind closed doors, they're cutting deals that enrich the CCP. In its rulemaking on the electric vehicle tax subsidy, the Biden-Harris administration decided that, quote, unofficial ties to the Chinese Communist Party were perfectly fine for the Chinese entity wishing to qualify. Now, apparently, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle and the Biden-Harris administration have little understanding of how communist China works. Unofficial or official, for a company to operate and be successful, you must be subservient to the interests of the Chinese Communist Party. H.R. 7980 will put an end to this asinine America Last policy and ensure that vehicles with batteries sourced from foreign prohibited entities, like those connected to the CCP, do not qualify for this tax credit. Additionally, the rule provides for consideration of H.R. 9456, the Protecting American Agriculture from Foreign Adversaries Act. 40 million acres of America's farmland are in the hands of foreign entities. As a representative of the hardworking family farmers in Western New York and the Southern Tier, I know firsthand the impact that foreign entities gobbling up American farmland can have on the success of our domestic farmers. It's driving the entry costs of potential new farmers to be higher with each passing year. The land where American farmers grow our food, our fuel, and fiber is precious and should be treated as such. H.R. 9456 will ensure that the Secretary of Agriculture has a seat on the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, and will require that the American people have a full understanding of just how much investment in our agricultural land is being pursued by China and entities connected to the Chinese Communist Party. This legislation, of which I am a proud co-sponsor, is an important first step in ensuring that the CCP, through its loyal entities, is not able to buy up our most precious commodity, our land, threatening our national security, our sovereignty, and our ability to feed ourselves. Food is security and will always be national security. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the rule before us includes consideration of H.R. 9494, a continuing resolution to extend government funding at current levels through March 28, 2025. To date, the House has passed legislation to fund more than 70% of our federal government operations for fiscal year 2025. Meanwhile, Senate Democrats have failed to bring forward a single fiscal year 2025 appropriations bill to the floor. This continuing resolution avoids a government shutdown, but it also includes the SAVE Act, requiring proof of United States citizenship to vote in federal elections. Democrats' open border policies have turned our country into a sanctuary for illegal aliens, and now they want them to vote. The SAVE Act ensures that only American citizens decide America's future. The Democrats' open border policies have brought nothing but chaos and destruction to our communities as millions of illegal aliens have flooded into this country. The left's refusal to secure our borders is deliberate and a direct threat to our democratic institutions, as a growing number of non-citizens are registered to vote and have been found to vote in our local, state, and federal elections. By allowing non-citizens to vote, they dilute the voice of every American citizen, undermining what should be a free and fair election. Mr. Speaker, our country was built on the principles of freedom, fairness, and justice. This administration's policies are a slap in the face to every immigrant who's followed a legal path to citizenship, who have respected our laws, and who have earned their right to participate in our democracy. That is something we should all agree on, we should all support, and we should all fight for. It's simple common sense. I urge my colleagues to support this rule, and I reserve the balance of my time.